What is it that makes a ghost story really scary? It's that little whisper in the back of your head that says, this could be true. Today, we're going to dive into 5 chilling stories from people who swear this stuff actually happened to them. These are the ones that really blur that line between a spooky legend and a terrifying reality.
Think about it. Every town has one, right? There's that old abandoned house everyone's afraid of, or that local legend that gets passed down from kid to kid. These stories become a part of the place, and they feel kind of safe, as long as they're just stories, haunting a place but not a person.
Yeah, that's when things get really scary. When that barrier between some old spooky tale and your own life just completely falls apart. And today, we're walking right up to that line where those distant echoes become a very, very immediate threat.
So first up, let's talk about spirits that are tied to a place. These kind of unsettling echoes of a past that never really went away. Okay, so our first story kicks off at a family birthday party. The house was built back in the 80s, but it always just felt dark, uncomfortable. Right in the middle of all the fun, a 5-year-old girl walks up to her dad, and she says she saw something. She saw a strange green figure on the stairs.
So her dad asks her, what do you mean, honey? And her description was just chillingly specific. She said a muscular, green-colored man was standing at the very top of the stairs, but he didn't have a head. The family was absolutely terrified. I mean, how does a 5-year-old just make up an image that specific and that grotesque?
You know how some places just have a bad vibe? Well, in her next story, a family moves into a house that's right next to this huge park. But this wasn't your normal, happy park. All the locals stayed away from it. Even the night watchmen were too scared to go anywhere near it once it got dark.
So one night, around 2 in the morning, the father looks out his window and he sees it. The park is completely empty, but the seesaw is going up and down, and the swings are swaying back and forth all by themselves. The local legend says that years ago, a little boy died there in a freak accident on the seesaw, and now, well, it looks like he's still there, trying to play.
All right, so lingering spirits are one thing, but what happens when they don't just haunt a place? What happens when they invade it? These next stories are about things that get into your house, your computer, even your family. This is where it gets personal.
For this one family, the whole nightmare started small. First, a window in the attic just shattered, but from the inside. Then, this horrible, strong smell, like ammonia, filled the house, with no explanation. And then, the thing made contact.
One of the guys in the family found a brand new document on his computer. He hadn't made it. He opens it up, and there's just one sentence inside. Something was not only taking responsibility for that awful smell, it was taunting them. And then came the absolute climax of the terror. The younger brother looks up toward the attic, and there's a figure leaning out. It looked exactly like his older brother, except its whole body was covered in white fur. And its mouth was stretched into this grotesque, inhuman grin that basically split its face in two. As this poor kid is just frozen in horror, this thing, this copy of his brother, leans forward and whispers those 4 words. Then it smiled and just vanished. I don't blame him one bit. The family sealed that attic shut right after and never ever opened it again. Okay, for our next story, we're going to post-war Vietnam. A family is living in a house built on land where countless victims of the war were buried, in unmarked graves. During a family get-together, their little 6-year-old daughter just disappears. So they search frantically for about an hour, and finally, her uncle finds her hiding. But when he tries to talk to her, this little girl looks up at him with bloodshot eyes and speaks in the deep, angry voice of an old woman. It was immediately clear something was very, very wrong. That wasn't her. A shaman confirmed their worst fears. She was possessed by a very old and very powerful spirit. The family literally had to drag the child, fighting and screaming, to his home for an exorcism. And as the ritual started, things went wild. Papers with symbols on the walls just burst into flames. Piles of salt in the corners of the room turned jet black. Finally, the little girl collapsed, free. But the ritual took everything from the old shaman. He died not long after. This last story, honestly, this might be the most terrifying one because it tears down the very last safe place we have, the wall between our nightmares and real life. What do you do when the monster from your dreams actually shows up? So imagine this. A guy is sitting by himself in a park. Late at night, it's foggy. And then a figure starts walking towards him.
The stranger's face is just deeply unsettling, but at the same time, it's familiar. He can't figure out where he knows this guy from, but he knows he does. The strange man stops, smoke just curling from his nostrils in the cold air, and he asks that exact question. The narrator says, yeah, it does, and this primal animal fear just grips him. His body is screaming at him that he's in danger, but his brain hasn't caught up yet. He just runs. He gets out of the park. It's not until he's safe at home that the memory hits him like a bolt of lightning. This wasn't some guy from a movie. He was the man from his childhood nightmares, the one who had tortured him in his dreams for years, stabbing him, roasting him, boiling him alive. The pain always felt so real. The only difference was, in the dream, he had a tail. So, why do these stories get under our skin so much? I think it's because they poke at our most basic fears. The fear of the unknown, the fear of our safe spaces being violated, and that terrifying thought that maybe, just maybe, the monsters in our heads aren't imaginary at all.
In the end, it doesn't really matter if you believe every word of these accounts. They leave us with one really chilling question to think about. In a world with so much we can't explain, what if some of these stories, or maybe even just one of them, is 100% true? What would that say about the world we think we live in?